Welcome back, everybody, to Freedom Steel. Todd Vandermeide, former NRA contract lobbyist, Illinois gun law guru, and the state filed their response. Over 1,400 pages of expert declarations and a 72-page brief. Yes, tonight is going to require alcohol. If I try to go through 72 pages here all at once, we're going to be here for a couple hours. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to hit some highlights here. Hit those highlights, the top points, and we'll go through parts of this. It has given me probably 4 or 5 different topics to go over that we can make 15-minute videos out of. They did file their illustrations. They are woefully deficient. I am going to have a field day with those. So let's dive in here. First off, tail end last week, and part of last week, you heard this big hubbub out there in the press that a state's attorney in New York sat there and said they disagreed with the state and the new carry law. Well, we have that here in our briefs, in our cases here in Southern Illinois. So the sheriff of McHenry County filed his own briefs and replies with exhibits, and he's opposing the ban. Even though he's a defendant, he is opposing the ban. He is not supporting the state, filed his own exhibits against the state, and is asking for the injunction to be issued. You also have the sheriff and state's attorney of St. Clair County. They're down there. They didn't really take a side per se. They didn't write up a lot. But what they did say is they thought the injunction should be issued in our favor. So you've got those pieces right there. Good news all the way around. So I don't know who else is going to pick up on this, but we do have state's attorneys and sheriffs, and you saw from the sheriff's amici brief before. So as we dive into this thing, one of the first exhibits that they offer is over 100 pages of news stories about everything that happened in Highland Park. They are playing the emotional game. They are trying to bootstrap in interest balancing and emotion. It has nothing to do with this. This is a question of law and interpretation. It doesn't have anything to do with the case. And so that's what they start off doing with their exhibits. Again, we're not going to go through everyone today. Got plenty of other stuff to get to. Here is interesting. In other words, Heller distinguished military-grade weapons like the M16 that may be banned from weapons commonly used by civilians for self-defense like handguns that may not. So here's what's going on. They are following the playbook of everybody else. Maryland, California, et al., and they're going in there and they're making this case. Remember, we've talked about this. They're making the case that the test from the Supreme Court in New York is not in common use. It's in common use for self-defense that have actually been deployed for self-defense. That's what they're trying to do. And they're sitting here saying that, they're trying to liken them to M16s. There's a reason in the NFA they don't have typical semi-auto rifles. They do have short barrels, but they don't have your typical semi-auto. That's because of the giggle switch, as we all call it. And that's here. That's part of the problem. But throughout this brief, they sit there and they try to bootstrap in that, the AR-15 and the like is no different than an M16. They just really aren't. And they say the most commercially successful weapon restricted by the Act, the AR-15 rifles, are the M16s in every way except the ability to toggle between semi-automatic and automatic fire. That distinction is not constitutional. Oh, yes, it is. It absolutely is. There's a big thing there to where, um, you know, machine guns have been severely regulated since the 30s with the National Firearms Act, and there was a cap put on civilian ownership back in 1986 with the Hughes Amendment. So there's a huge difference in the way that we have regulated those guns for almost 100 years, 90 years plus, and yet here we are. So they argue that the plaintiffs cannot meet their burden by showing assault weapons and large capacity magazines are arms protected by the Second Amendment. Large capacity magazines are accessories, not arms. There you go. There is the Washington argument, the Oregon argument, whichever one that is from up there. That's their argument that they're parts. They're not part of the arm. They're not necessary. And they continue to go in that they are also not arms protected by the Second Amendment because they are not commonly used for self-defense, the central component of the Second Amendment right itself. No, that is not. No, that is not. And I mean, this is where you got to go here and save the watch. It is too deep for the boots. Save the watch. And if we go back to the opening part of Heller that they always want to skip over, they want to ignore. Held, the Second Amendment protects an individual right to possess a firearm unconnected with service in the militia and to use that arm for traditionally lawful purposes, such as self-defense within the home. Such as, they want to paper over that every single time, and that's what they've done. They've done it here ad nauseum. That is what they do. They continue to try to claim that the entire thing about Heller is only about self-defense. Nope. That's not it. It's for all lawful purposes. And to sit there and say, look, you may lean an AR-15 up into the corner of your bedroom, and it's there ready to go in case somebody breaks in case of whatever. Just because you don't ever pick it up and actually point it out the window or have to go clear your house doesn't mean you don't have the intention of having it available for self-defense. It's going to be a little choppy tonight. I've got a frog in my throat, and I'm trying to cut out so you don't have to listen to me cough and hack a bunch. That is what they keep trying to do. They do that, and then it's funny here. They want to limit the guns that we talk about to those guns that were in existence in 1791 or possibly around the Civil War. That if they weren't in existence there, then oh no, it doesn't matter. They're trying to revive freedmen. They're trying to breathe more life into that discarded and rebuked approach that Heller completely eviscerated. They're trying to treat it like Jason out of a Friday the 13th movie. That's what they're doing here. And they just keep going down this road, but at the same time, they then want to reach all the way into the 20th century to talk about analogies that go along with this. It is just beyond belief here. It really is. So I hear in their beginning of their arguments, plaintiffs are unlikely to succeed on their claims, which all derive from the Second Amendment. Plaintiffs are not likely to succeed on the merits because they cannot show that the Second Amendment's plain text covers the weapons and accessories plaintiffs seek to purchase and sell. They are also unlikely to succeed on the merits because the act is consistent with the nation's historical traditions of firearms regulations. it's funny through here, they refuse to reference Illinois firearm retailers. You got to believe that they know about that case. And they completely say there's no right to sell a gun. And then it's like, oh, you're going to be inconvenienced because you can't acquire another AR-15. Ezell talks about the right to acquire. There has to be if there's a right to acquire, there's a corresponding right to sell. And this is why this is going to be important. They go on to say Heller has been followed by two other decisions that discuss this right, McDonald v. Chicago and Bruin. There have been three decisions. You have McDonald, you have Catano, and you have New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin. You guys want to completely skip over. There's a whole section in here where they want to go after percentages. It is a cut and copy, carbon paste from what you saw the anti-gunners put up in Naperville. It is what you saw in other states. They are just regurgitating the same old BS. And with this, they just keep trying. They're just, this may be better written than some of the other briefs that we've seen, but they're just trotting out the same old tired arguments. They just are. And they keep trying to get into it. So, and they bring the self-defense thing in, I don't know how many different times. So, that's where we are. They filed their briefs. They filed their addendums. We'll go through them. And we'll do it more and more. I'm trying to keep these videos down a little bit. This is the opening one on their brief here. And with it, it is just nothing but a regurgitation of trying to restate the test, trying to build in a new test that is not what New York talked about. And they're trying to split hairs and play games with what Heller said. They take this part here about weapons that are most useful in the military service, M16 rifles and the like, may be banned. But they take that sentence out of context. And then they go on and they make the claim that is because the amendment protects only instruments that facilitate armed self-defense. Bullshit. Then why aren't you going out there? Why did you, in your bill, exempt manually operated firearms? Why? Why'd you exempt lever guns? Why'd you exempt pump action shotguns under the gun ban? Why? Because if you want to talk about weapons of war, and that'll be another one, but weapons of war, 1897 pump action shotgun, Remington 700. So much for that. So this is a real piece of fiction that they've cobbled together here. I haven't added up what they're paying their experts, but each one seemed to have, the two contracts I saw said that they had a cap of 30 grand on. So if you put potentially 4 experts together at a cap of $30,000, you got 120 grand right there in expert witnesses. They're alone. And it may be more, because the one guy was over $700 an hour. Your tax money at work. But that's what's going on. So, guys, that's the intro into what they filed today. We'll get into some more of it. I'll cut a couple more videos on this. Try to take these things down one step at a time. We'll walk through them and just how ignorant they are. But along with that, so please always like, subscribe, copy paste the link, share it around on the forums, the other channels, whatever. Put it on your social media, share it with your friends. We really appreciate all that. Nudging up towards the 7,000 mark. This will all be helpful. Please donate to the funds, especially the SADC, the Second Amendment Defense and Education Coalition. We're starting to burn through the donations now. We really are. And we really are going to need all those shekels, whether it's $5 or 500 or 5,000. We're going to need every bit of it. The state has an unlimited budget, and we are going after this, and we're going after it the hard way. So, as always, please, we appreciate all your help, appreciate all your time, your following, and as always, frag out.